Hey everyone, so in today's video we're going to paint a watercolor Santa Claus. This is an easy project and also a chance for me to show a technique for painting white things over a white background without using hard outlines. As always, you can download the Santa sketch and color palette for free in the description, as well as see a list of the brushes and stuff that I'm using for this project. So if I open the layers panel, you can see I've got the sketch already placed in here, and I've set it to multiply so it doesn't cover up what we're going to paint. Then I'm going to use a blank layer down here, and I'm going to start with the abstract round brush. And using this red color here from our color palette, I'm going to start by filling out all the different colored elements. And basically my technique is, first I'll roughly fill it out like this, then I'll use the eraser brush, which is set to the fine liner pen, and then I'll cut it back so it matches my sketch closely. And I'll quickly use this technique to block out all the main colors for the hat, the arms, the gloves, the tree, and the face. So once all the main colors are blocked out, it looks like this, and each color here is sort of organized on its own layer. So all the red stuff is on one layer, blue stuff on another layer. It just keeps it organized. And it's totally normal for in some areas, they don't exactly match up, like there's a little white gap. I think that's totally fine and just part of the style. But if you want to avoid that, just try to follow the sketch as closely as possible when you're coloring in the different shapes. And usually after the main colors are laid down, I'll move on and work on the patterns to each element. And I'll start with the hat and the arms. So I'm going to make sure I've got that layer selected. For the brush, I'm going to change to the fine liner pen, and I'm just going to use a lighter version of this red to add the stripes. So the stripy pattern is pretty easy. Now the pattern on the tree is a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to make sure the tree layer is selected, and just to make it easier to see what I'm doing, I'll turn everything else off, just temporarily. And what I'm going to do is use the selection tool, set to freehand, and I'm going to make a selection just like this, that sort of covers each section of the tree, and I'll brighten it, just so I have some contrast there. Then I'm going to use the water blender brush, and I'll blend the top of that selection, so hopefully that makes sense. I'm basically just making a highlight to show off this section and then blending the top of it so it has a smooth transition. And I'm going to do this to the other sections as well. And once the tree's done, I can do the pattern on the gloves. So I'll make sure the glove layer is selected. And I'm going to go back to the fine liner pen that I used earlier. And I'm just going to do the glove pattern with a lighter version of that blue color. And once those patterns are all done, we can move on and start working on the face. The first thing I'll start with is the rosy cheeks. So I'm going to select the face layer, this one, and I'll make a blank layer above it. And I'll use a pretty bright red color, something like that, and the fine liner pen, and I'll scribble those in. Then I'm going to go to my adjustments, Gaussian blur, and I can soften that just until it's blurred enough. There we go. Then I'll use the eraser to cut it back where it overlaps on the beard area. And in this case, the effect is a little bit too strong, so I'm just going to lower the opacity to control that. There we go. And for the rest of the face, I'll make another new blank layer, and I'll move on and start the nose. So again, I'll use the fine liner pen. I think a slightly softer, more orangey red will work for this. And my trick for the nose is, I sort of just fill out the tip of it like that. Then I switch over to the water blender, and I kind of blend it so it's fading out as we go to the base of the nose. There we go, just so it has this kind of ombre effect. Then I use the eraser again to cut it back to match the sketch. And the rest of the face details are pretty straightforward. I'm doing them all on the same layer as the nose, and just using the fine liner pen and a couple different shades of pinks and reds. And just because it's convenient, I'm going to use the same layer as the face to quickly fill out the star and the bell. So at this point, once we've got the face on, our Santa is really starting to look good. And right now, I'm going to move on and show you how to do the beard. Now, there's a little trick because obviously the beard is white, the paper background is white, and we need to get contrast somehow. So I'm going to use a technique of basically adding a shadow. And all of this is going to be on its own layer. So I'll make another new blank layer, and I'm going to make sure it's underneath our face details. So here are the face details, and then here's the beard layer. Now for the brush, I'm not going to use one of the watercolor brushes. I'm going to go to the drawing tab in the brush library and use the Freycinet brush for this. And I'll use a very, very light gray color. I think something like that, maybe even a little bit lighter. And I'm just going to kind of go around the edge of all the white areas. And then I'm going to use the eraser brush, still set to the fine liner pen, to kind of clear out this inner area so it matches the sketch. And don't forget to do the same thing down here. And as you can see, this functions as a gentle transition between the white beard and the white background and gives us some nice contrast. Now for the texture on the beard, I'm going to use the same gray color, but I'm going to switch back to the fine liner pen. And I'm going to add this kind of crosshatch pattern just randomly over the beard. Now the rim of the hat here is also white like the beard, but obviously it's not part of the beard, so I need to find a way to separate it. So what I'm going to do is select a slightly darker version of that gray. Same brush though, same fine liner pen, and I'm going to do a kind of fuzzy outline all along the edge of it. And I think the beard needs the same thing as well, because obviously the beard, it doesn't make sense that it has this perfect smooth edge. It should be kind of fuzzy like the hat as well. Now if I use the same gray outlines on the beard, it'll look like, again, the beard is part of the hat, and I really want them to be separate. So to fix this problem, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to make a blank layer, and I'm going to put it above everything. And I'm going to select pure white. And at this point, I don't need the sketch anymore, so I'm going to switch it off. And this will also help me see this more clearly. So basically the edge of the beard is too smooth. So I'm going to use this pure white, again the fine liner pen, and I'm going to go along the beard and basically add this kind of fuzzy white outline effect all along the edge here and also along the face as well. And this whole thing functions just to give the beard a sort of hairy texture that makes it stand different than the hat. And at this point, our Santa Claus illustration could be totally done, but if you want to go the extra mile, you can add some shadows. And normally I do that with the selection tool, but because we have the white beard, that won't really work, so we need to add the shadows a different way. So for this way, I'm going to make a blank layer, again above everything. I'll set it to multiply, and then I'm going to draw on it with a couple of medium shades of gray and the fine liner pen. And I'm going to draw here, for example. I want there to be a shadow being cast from the hat onto the face, and it's too dark, so I can just lower the opacity of this whole layer just so that shading is barely visible. And then I can do all the shadows on this same layer just by drawing with the pencil here. And if you want, you can choose a darker color of that gray to make a stronger shadow in certain areas. And just like that, our Santa illustration is all done. And here's a closer look at the final result. And that pretty much wraps it up. If you think I've earned it, please give this video a like. And if you want to learn more about painting people in this cute, kind of quirky watercolor style, I think you'll love this tutorial up here.